All right, what's up, guys? We're here with Ken. Thanks for being on the show, bro.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you guys.
And we're at Rendezvous Junction, which is your stomping ground.
Yep.
You've even got the boots on and everything.
The old extra
So
tubs.
I'm excited about this convo. Let's get it kicked off, man. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about, are you from around here or no?
Yeah, so I grew up in Ozark, Arkansas, which is about an hour and a half south of here.
Yeah.
It's the base of the Boston Mountains. Beautiful location. Not a lot going on in town. Our high school mascot were the Ozark Hillbillies.
Great.
So that's always a good point of pride for us down there. But, Northwest Arkansas in this area was always a little bit of a mecca for me. You know, I had restaurants and music and cool bars and an art scene that where I grew up, although I love it with the nature and the hiking and the floating and, I grew up fishing was a big deal for me. I always knew that I kind of wanted to land somewhere that was a little bit more metropolitan. And so I came up here to go to school in 2013, graduated a few years later in psychology, and I was actually pre-med at the time. I had
Interesting.
I had a good scholarship and everything, but I started doing internships at hospitals, and I hated it. Like, I did not want to be in the bureaucratic field of medicine.
Yeah.
So I actually kind of regretted going into even though I love sciences, I kind of regretted not going into the business school because it is a big business school down there with a lot of different connections you can make to big money people. And around the time I was 21, I started working at breweries and I fell in love with the culture, probably around the same time that I fell in love with craft beer. When I was, under 21, my beer experience was limited to whatever the guy with the fake ID was picking up at the liquor store.
That's right.
But then I started going to craft breweries and working in the industry, and I loved it. So by the time I finished college, I knew this is kind of where I wanted to land. And I was actually looking for corporate work to, fund my venture because you can't open a brewery with no money. And so I actually was working at Uptown Kitchen and Tap House, which back in the day was Growler USA. And that's where I met Mike, who's our founder. And he had been homebrewing for a decade at that point. He was running Rendezvous Junction out of kind of a closet brewery at what used to be Foster's Pint and Plate, just right up the road.
Yeah.
And so right around that time, they shut down Foster's Pint and Plate. So he had a brewery, but no place to sell his beer. And he decided that that was the time to go and open up where we're sitting now. That was pre-COVID, so it took us a little longer than we expected, but he invited me to come along on the journey, and after a few years of hard work, we got this place opened up, and I was initially just supposed to be a brewer, and since that time, I've graduated to Chief Operating Officer, so I run off-site and on-site events. I have got a really good team who helps me, do the marketing and make sure all the production for those things work right. Yeah. I've got a great assistant brewer who helps me bring out our beers, but that's my original love was making the beer. So that's where we are today.
From psych to psychology of beer, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. Well, I'm glad to have you on today, and I feel like this is really exciting because we've hosted a patio social at Rendezvous, and it's one of our crowd's favorite places. So, and you played a big role in that. And we're actually having another event next week.
Yep.
And we're coming right back.
I'm excited to have you guys back.
Coveted place with two or more patio socials happening there.
Well, maybe we'll have the patio open for you this time.
Yeah, for sure.
It rained last time.
It's raining this week, so who knows? But you talked about being a beer guy and being a hillbilly, which I love.
Yeah.
Is that where the mullet comes from?
So no, the mullet is a recent inspiration. I think it comes out of me always wanting to try to have long hair, but not having the patience to let it get in my eyes.
Yeah.
And I think it is kind of trendy right now. I read something recently that it's a bunch of Australian, style.
Mullets are up 20%, something like that.
Are, yeah. Somebody needs to invest in mullets. Bitcoin's not doing as well as it should be. So get into mullets if you can, guys.
That's funny. Or both if you have the ability to. That's funny, man. I love it. So tell us, when I walk into a place like this, I mean, this is a huge facility. You're in an awesome location in Rogers. What do you think makes Rendezvous like a good brewery, a great brewery? And what are some of the things you guys are getting into right now in the community and stuff that's cementing that?
Yeah, so, craft beer for the longest time, you can make mediocre products and people would come because in Northwest Arkansas, we really didn't have that industry pop up for locally made, sourced craft products, especially when it comes to the beer scene. Now, 2010-ish was kind of the boom here, which is about 10 years behind the boom the rest of the country. And so what we've tried to do coming into the market relatively late when opening this spot in 2021 was to create a space like our logo and our tagline says, we crafting beer to bring taste and buds together.
Yeah.
And so what we wanted to do was not only create a product that we could market and sell really well and that everybody enjoyed, we wanted to create a space and an atmosphere where anyone could come in and find something on the board that they could drink, as well as enjoy which our bread and butter is, which is really well-made craft beer, whether that be a lager or an IPA or a fruited sour, which is some of our favorite styles here. So we do lots of events on site. So really the industry is kind of moving towards a venue-based thing while letting the beer be its center, letting events and community revolve around that center. And so that's what we've tried to do. Last year we did a pretty large concert series. We're hoping to continue that in the future. However, the costs of producing live music has made it a bit limiting recently. But we do fun events like, I think in July we're workshopping the name, so forgive us for Pirates of the Caribbean Party. And we're going to release a shandy. We're going to call it like the Shanty Shandy.
Awesome.
And we're going to have everybody come out dressed up as pirates, do a costume contest. We've actually got a local troupe of the Ren Fair that happened last year. They're doing it again this year. It's called Rentopia. And they'll be bringing out some I would call them LARPers, but they're more professional than that. Some actors to come in and do like a pirate takeover.
Wow.
We're going to have a brig, that you can slam them in and take pictures. So it's honestly, when it comes to live events at breweries, you just got to be creative and hope that it's not too corny for people to show up.
Yeah.
Because we did Barbie Party last year, which was really fun, around International Women's Day. We're doing a Ricky Bobby party here soon to celebrate the Indy 500. So honestly, to get outside of the story, really for me, it's creating not only a really good product in our beer, but also creating a community space that people can be a part of and feel welcome at. So we do things like craft seltzers. We do our own in-house ginger beer that we create mules out of, because I know not everybody likes beer, to their detriment, but we want everybody to feel welcome when they're in here.
How do you make the best beer? How do you make a new beer? You said something about graham crackers, and tell me a little bit about how you create the taste, and what do y'all do seasonally to like create a new beer, and then you take one off the menu? Do you have a rotating menu? Like, how does all that work? So it's really nice. We're not a large distributing brewery, so pretty much all of our new beers can be workshopped in-house. We've got a small one barrel brew house that we're able to create pilot batches on to try out. And if they work out well, we can bring them to our 10 barrel, which is our mass production line here, which is still really small compared to a lot of breweries around here. And so really, it's kind of just an in-house effort and long-term community feedback about what we're making. Now, of course, we're going to do more stouts in this winter time, something heavier. We're going to do those Oktoberfest style, those fest beers in this fall when Oktoberfest is going on. But really, seasonally, we're thinking about flavors, right? You want something bright and juicy in the summer. Yeah.
You want something more dark, like a Guinness style or a pastry stout in the wintertime. So we work around that framework, but really, it's nice that we can make anything whenever we want. And that's the great thing about how ingredients are available year-round for most products now. So, like, just Friday, we brewed one of our most popular beers, which is our Sweetie Pie, which we split into two batches. So we make Peach Therapy and Sweetie Pie. It's a key lime pie sour and a peach cobbler sour. And I'd say that's probably the number one inspiration for like experimental beers we do is food, especially things with really strong flavors, because fermentation itself will actually destroy a lot of the compounds that are added to the beer at the front. So what we'll do is we'll work with a flavor that is not so subtle, that can come through in the beer, and we'll add all those real ingredients in later on in the process so that they remain in the liquid solution throughout.
Yeah.
And so for me, if it's making a new recipe, a lot of the times I'll go to the internet and I'll be like, let's just do something simple like, okay, I want to make a Helles lager, which is a traditional German style lager. And so I'll go on and read Reddit forums. I'll look at online posted recipes, and I'll pick and choose what ingredients, like, oh, I really love this malt base. Let's grab that. Oh, wait, we already have this one on hand. Let's use that one. And I'll kind of come up with, like, I don't know, we'll look at 10 different recipes and kind of just mold a fit for what we do here. And we've got some really good software that we've loaded all of our numbers into. A lot of the times, like if you give 10 different breweries the same recipe, you'll get 10 different products. And that's because process and equipment is different.
Yeah.
So we kind of adapt what we want to our equipment and then come up with a product. And then a lot of the times at the end when we're adding in flavors, we're experimenting with it. So just today, we're working on a strawberry milkshake IPA. And
nice.
so I'm excited about that one.
Sick.
So we pulled off 150 milliliters of that, and then I had the product that I wanted to use in it, and we did math and found out how much we were going to use in each and mixed it up to see how it would come out. And actually, I don't know if we're going to use strawberry now because we didn't like how it matched up, so we may do something different like pineapple. But that's kind of
when you say that, are you talking about putting the actual fruit in, or are you talking about a concoction that creates that flavor?
It is. We use real fruit in everything that we use. Now, these real fruit are not always like throwing a strawberry into a fermenter. A lot of times for us, it is purchasing a product like a aseptic fruit puree that has been pasteurized. So you bring it up to 180 degrees to kill off anything that might taint the beer later on in the process.
Yeah.
And we get it in buckets and pour it in, but it is 100% natural fruit
Cool.
that we add to the system later. For other things like something that is really like a subtle flavor, like a blueberry, we might use a 100% concentrate. So a lot of the liquid has already come off of it, and because we don't want to pay exorbitant shipping prices for 45 gallons of blueberry, we'll get it in a concentrate and mix it directly into the beer so that rehydration actually happens in the beer instead of adding water with it.
Interesting.
So it's a lot of, there is a lot of feel to it. But for me, that's part of the fun. That's part of the process. And we always try to say, like, we want to be creative enough to fail. Right, we want to try something, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and then we mark down what we learned and we try something different. I don't think if you're not failing, you're not trying. Is kind of what I'll say.
Yeah.
And if it's bad, we flush it down the drain. Because like I said, we do those 1-barrel pilot batches. That's not a lot of beer. It is a significant investment, but it's better than doing an entire 10-barrel batch where you're sitting on this beer for a year and a half because it tastes bad.
So my last question on the beer front, because we have more to talk about for sure, is if someone wasn't coming straight to the bar here at Rendezvous, what are some spots they could try your beer at? What are some bars or some restaurants that serve your stuff?
So we love working with our local restaurants. I will say we don't distribute as much as a lot of other breweries in town do, but we're on at places like Uptown Kitchen and Tap House, like I mentioned earlier. We're on in downtown Rogers at several places like OZ Smokehouse.
Okay.
We love to work with one of my favorite restaurants, Sidewalk, always has one of our taps rotating.
Excellent. Yeah. Love the pork.
We're I think in about 15 accounts right now, but majorly we try to keep most of our stuff in-house. I'd say one of our favorite accounts that we work with, like outside of the Rogers area, is like Odd Soul in Springdale.
Yeah.
There's some really good partners of ours, and they're very beer focused, and we love working with them as well.
Nice, man. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So there's another industry brewing in Northwest Arkansas, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But it's the coffee industry.
Yeah.
We have a lot of brewers, a lot of coffee joints popping up. Do you have a regular spot that you go to, maybe in Rogers or around here, that's something you would shout out?
Yeah, my favorite two are Airship and Onyx. They're probably the two most popular coffee makers here in Northwest Arkansas. Onyx's branding and aesthetic is so perfect, and their presentation is beautiful as well. In fact, I had an egg sandwich there last week. That was it was delicious. They had like.
Now, are you going downtown Rogers?
Downtown Rogers.
Okay,
cool.
Cool.
At that main spot down there, and we actually work with Onyx for our Eavesdrop coffee porter, and we take 10 gallons of cold brew that they brew for us. I take them a big old bucket over to their spot. They brew it in. It takes them a couple days. We get it back, and we just pour it directly into the tank. Yeah. So there's some caffeine in there. It's not a huge amount of caffeine, but it's real. Rogers sourced and made coffee.
That's awesome.
in our beer. Yeah.
It's funny that you said Onyx. We didn't plan this, but there's a new coffee shop called the Doyen. I looked that up to see if I could spell that correctly. On the Walmart campus, it's actually accessible to the public. Is that something you're going to check out?
Absolutely. I mean, that Walmart campus is massive.
It's incredible.
So I'm excited to see what they have to offer there. I like that they are partnering with more local spots because I think that Walmart without the Walmart campus and the Walmart groups that are up here, Rendezvous Junction wouldn't be a thing.
Yeah.
But I also want them to remember that and to focus in on like, hey, these are the people that made this possible. And so them partnering with local folks and working with them is one of the best parts of that campus moving up here. But yeah, no, anything that goes into that Walmart campus, I know it's going to be built well and that they've going to have invested the right amount of money and time into it to make it work well. So it's called Doyen.
Doyen, yeah, and I think that stands for something like a powerful woman, which is funny.
Good.
It's female owned, it's local, of course, and so I think that's pretty cool. And we've been looking at a couple of different spots across the campus on where we could post up and even shoot some content. So
cool.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out. But
absolutely.
Yeah, man. So there's something going on in Fayetteville. I don't know if you guys are involved. Have you ever participated in Brew Pig Suey? And is that something you guys have tossed around?
It's funny. I've actually talked to the guy that runs Brew Pig Suey, and we have been signed up to work that event twice now, and it's been rescheduled to days that we already had in-house events on.
And they're rescheduling right now. They can't do it this weekend.
Yes, exactly. So we hope that we can always, we are on the invite list to Brew Pig Suey, but we'll have to make sure that it works out with what we've got going on here because, like I said, we are a small brewery. We have a very small staff, and when we have events going on here at the brewery, we don't always have the people available to send to places like that.
Yeah.
But we love working with Fayetteville-based events specifically because that is a market. It's thundering right now.
Yeah, it is.
That is a market that we're still relatively unknown in, and so every time that we do a festival in Fayetteville, whether it be Brew Pig Suey or the Dixon Street Oktoberfest that they do every year. We always gain new customers from that. We did Frostfest this year, and I can't tell you how many people came in through the door because they were like, "Hey, we had your beer at Frostfest. We wanted to come check you guys out."
Yeah,
that's the huge benefit to beer festivals, especially ones that are in the local area, but maybe just a little bit separated from Rogers.
Yeah. That's cool that you say that. It's interesting. I come from a real estate background. You're in the brewing industry, so we have these towns. We have Fayetteville to Bentonville to Rogers, Springdale. So where can we find you hanging out at on the weekend? Where's a spot? Where's a place? Are you downtown? Are you uptown? Where are you hanging out? Or are you just Rogers through and through?
I try to go to all the spots. I like to drink beer. So I tried, if I go
even
to
when you're not here, you're still drinking.
I'm still drinking beer.
Nice.
I try to when I go to Fayetteville, always make sure that I know what I'm doing that day and that I have either a stay or a ride figured out. So I'm less in Fayetteville than I am in like Springdale, Rogers, or Bentonville.
Yeah.
But in Springdale specifically, I love the Odd Soul and Bauhaus. If you're familiar, the Odd Soul is kind of a divey pizza joint.
I've been to the Odd Soul, have not been. What was the other one?
So the other one's Bauhaus.
Okay.
It is a German restaurant as well as a German beer brew pub, or not brew pub, just pub. They bring in a lot of European lagers and stuff like that, which I'm a huge fan of. And they also have really great bratwurst and knockwurst and stuff like that, pretzels. Yeah. It's just a really cool kind of homey spot in a house down there. Rogers wise, I love to visit, all the breweries up here. Same with Bentonville as well. But Rogers, I love Club Frisco is one of my hangout spots.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, I was at Sidewalk today. It's my favorite restaurant in town. In Bentonville, I go to Bentonville Brewing Company, Bike Rack, those guys up there. I also love to go by Loveless Lounge in downtown.
Nice.
It's owned by a couple of friends of mine. It's a really cool spot to check out as well.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
You've mentioned Sidewalk, I feel like 7 times. Probably the second time. Yes. I love that place too. What do you order at Sidewalk?
My favorite thing that I get there is the meat fried wonton soup.
Okay.
It's delicious. It's got kind of a ramen-y or pho base with they've got these beautiful homemade fried wontons, and you're supposed to like dip them in and eat them, and it's not like your typical one that just like they float around in the soup. But yeah, it's my favorite one down there.
You get the pork belly fries ever?
I love the pork belly fries.
That'll put it on you, man.
I can eat about this much of them, and
eat those and drink beer all day long. No, don't do that. It's funny. Let's make some bold predictions. Do you think the Hogs baseball team is going all the way this year, or are we going to fall short again in the College World Series? What's going on?
So I've been a Razorback fan since I was born. I could call the Hogs at 3 years old. And as much as I want to be a huge supporter, and I am, and be optimistic, man, that little playoff run they just took just went to show, they call them the Heartbreak Hogs for a reason. So I'm not gonna like say that we don't have a chance to make it all the way, because we definitely do. But I'm going to keep my hopes centered on my life experience.
That's right, dude.
Because I think the day I stop paying attention is the day they're going to win.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the problem.
I need to find oneness with myself, and then the Hogs will handle themselves, right? Well, I've never been one to base my entire personality off of sports, but I love the Hogs, and I love the baseball and the football team. I got to watch them sweep South Carolina a couple weeks ago, so
nice.
They're off to a good start,
yes,
but you never know what's going to happen. And I got to add that I'm proud of them for making it to the Sweet 16. In basketball, I feel like that was a huge accomplishment.
They played so well.
They played well.
Throughout that tournament, they just killed it.
I got to say this, dude. Heartbreak Hogs, yet we're playing amazing in the tournament. I just can't say it. I can't say that word. We need a new phrase for the Hogs, because especially in the basketball team, we like to over-deliver even with the mid-season.
Yeah.
And so my friends like to say Heartbreak Hogs. I'm going to come up with something better, and I'm going to start saying it on this podcast right now.
Please do.
Yes. Seriously, we need a new like energy around this thing. But I love watching the basketball team too. It's amazing.
There's always going to be a guaranteed fan base, and we're always going to support the Razorbacks in whatever they do. And I'm proud of those guys for going as far as they did. You know, and not to say, dude, we have the infrastructure in place, especially in baseball and basketball. So I think that there is never count them out. Is what I'll say. Never count them out. Yeah.
But never count them out, Hogs, man. that one's not going to
we're going to shorten that.
That's right. I'm curious to know, because you're a man in business now. You're an Arkansas guy. You're the Southern guy. What does faith mean to you in this world?
So faith in particular is something that, I think about a lot. But for me, faith goes beyond just religiosity, right? For me, faith is loving something and knowing you can get hurt or fail, or trying something that might not work out. A marriage is an act of faith. Starting a business is an act of faith. Loving God is an act of faith. And faith is something that, for me as a logically minded person, I've always struggled with a bit. But I find that faith in particular, it brings some of the best fulfillment to anyone's life. Like you can't grow, you can't change without having a little bit of faith, whether that be faith in yourself, faith in your business, faith in your partner, faith in your God. Like I said, faith is something that I've always struggled with a little bit, but I found that the best rewards come from having a little bit of faith in the Hogs.
That's right. That's right. Well said, man. I couldn't have said it better myself. Ken, thanks for being on, brother. This was fun.
Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir.